The sweet sound of Naples. I don't mean the busy streets with its traffic, metros and aeroplanes, or I don't mean the sound of the beautiful sea crashing into the Gulf on the seafront, nor do I mean the sound of the sleeping Mount Vesuvius. I mean the sweet sounds of Neapolitan music that comes from the city and Campania. In this video, we will take a look at all things Neapolitan in terms of its musical styles, instruments, its characteristics, and learn about famous singers and groups, its history, and what makes Neapolitan music so unique and important in the world. We will study Neapolitan's classical music, Canzone Napoletana, Opera Buffa, Neapolitan folk music, the Sceneggiata Napoletana, the Cantautore, Neomelodica, and other great scenes from the Neapolitan music repertoire. If you would like to skip ahead to a certain category, then you can find the list of chapters in our description box. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Drum roll please. Naples has played an important and vibrant role over the centuries, not just in the music of Italy, but in the general history of Western European musical traditions. This influence extends from the early music conservatories in the 16th century, during the Baroque period, and the comic operas of Pergolesi, Piccini, and eventually Rossini and Mozart. The vitality of the Neapolitan popular music from the late 19th century has made such songs like
O Sole Mie
and
Funiculi Funicula
a permanent part of our musical consciousness. In the mid-16th century, the Spanish throne established church-run conservatories in its vice realm of Naples. These institutions were on the premises of 4 churches in the city of Naples:
Santa Maria di Loreto, Pietà dei Turchini, Sant'Onofrio a Capuana
and
I Poveri di Gesù Cristo.
At the time, these institutions were called conservatories because they conserved, that is, they sheltered and educated orphans. Since music was such an integral part of the training of the children, by the early 17th century, conservatory had become known as musical school and became used in the meaning in other European languages. The Neapolitan conservatories enjoyed a considerable reputation throughout Europe as training grounds not only for young children to be trained in church music, but eventually as a feeder system to the world of commercial music and opera, once they opened up in the early 17th century. This primed Naples to become one of the most important centres of musical training in Europe. By the 18th century, Naples was nicknamed the Conservatory of Europe and was home and workshop to composers
Alessandro Scarlatti, Pergolesi, Niccolò Piccinni, Domenico Cimarosa, Rossini, Bellini, Donizetti,
etc. Naples was also the birthplace of the popular Neapolitan Opera Buffa and the site of the San Carlo Theatre, built in 1737, and it's one of the finest musical theatres in the world. Within the courtyard of San Pietro a Maiella, the Naples Music Conservatory. Under the short French rule of Murat in the early 19th century, the original 4 conservatories were joined together into a single institution, which was relocated in 1826 to the premises of the ex-monastery, San Pietro a Maiella. The conservatory still bears the inscription Royal Academy of Music over the entrance and is still an important musical school in Italy. It houses an impressive library of manuscripts pertaining to the lives and musical production of the composers who had lived and worked in Naples. Canzone Napoletana. Canzone Napoletana is what most people think of when they think of Neapolitan music. It's something referred to as Neapolitan song. It's a generic term for a traditional form of music sung in the Neapolitan language, originally for the male voice singing solo, although well represented by female soloists as well, and expressed in familiar genres such as the love song and the serenade. Many of the songs are about the nostalgic longing for Naples as it once was. The genre consists of a large body of composed popular music. Such songs include
A Vucchel, c'è la luna mezzo mare, come facette mammat, corn grat, funiculi, funicula, indifferentemente, Lazzarella, Mala femmina, Mare verde, Monasteri e Santa Chiara, O sole mie, O surdate innamorate, Passione, perché Santa Lucia, tiemp belle, torna sorriendo, tu fa l'americana.
To name a few. Some notable artists and composers include
Mario Abbate, Bruno Venturini, Renzo Arbore, Renato Carosone, Enrico Caruso, Nino D'Angelo, Pino Daniele, gigid'Alessio, Mario Lanza, Luciano Pavarotti, Peppino Di Capri, Ernesto De Curtis.
Again, to name only a few. Although the music is sung by many non-Neapolitan singers, it is difficult to sing correctly without knowledge of the Neapolitan dialect, which is crucial in obtaining the correct inflection. The Neapolitan song became a formal institution in the 1830s, though the vehicle of an annual songwriting competition for the yearly festival of Piedegrotta, dedicated to the Madonna of Piedegrotta, a well-known church in the
Mergellina
area of Naples. The winner of the first festival was a song entitled
Te voglio bene assai,
It was composed by the prominent opera composer.
Gaetano Donizetti.
The festival ran regularly until 1950, when it was abandoned. A subsequent festival of Neapolitan song on Italian state radio enjoyed some success in the 1950s, but it was eventually abandoned. The period since 1950 has produced such songs as
Mala femmina,
by Totò,
Maruzzella,
by Renato Carosone,
Indifferentemente,
by Mario Trevi,
Carmela.
by Sergio Bruni. Although separated by some decades from the earlier classics of the genre, they have now become classics in their own right. Now let's take a look at Neapolitan folk music and see what instruments are used and that come from Naples. Neapolitan folk music. Often combining dance, music and drama, the subject matter and approaching to vocalizing are quite distinct from the composed styles of the better known Neapolitan song. The instruments include
Tamurra, tricche ballac, putipu, mandolino.
Let's take a look at these beautiful instruments in detail, how they are utilized in the Neapolitan music. The tambourine, called tamora in the Neapolitan dialect, it has a circular frame with a single drumhead stretched across one side of the instrument. There are generally more small metal jingles mounted around the perimeter of the instrument that sound as the tamora is struck by the knuckles on the open hand. The triccaballaca is a type of clapper consisting of 3 percussive mallets mounted on a base, the outer 2 of which are hinged at the base and are moved in to strike the central piece. The rhythmic sound is produced by clicking of wood on wood and the simultaneous sound of the small metal discs, called jingles, mounted on the instrument. The putipu, consisting of a membrane stretched across a resonating chamber, like a drum. A handle attached to the membrane compresses air rhythmically with the chamber, and the air then spurts out the not quite hermetic seal that fastens the membrane to the wooden body of the instrument to produce a burping sound. And finally, the mandolin. There are various kinds of mandolins in use in Italy, such as the Roman, the Lombard, and the Genovese, and the Neapolitan mandolin. They may differ in size, shape, number of strings and tuning. The traditional Neapolitan mandolin is tear-shaped and uniquely cut and shaped front sounding board. It has 8 strings paired into 4 violin tunings of G, D sharp, A sharp and E sharp. Stereotypically, the instrument is commonly used in conjunction with a guitar. The mandolin guitar duo is the traditional instrumentation of the pasteggiatori, who are street musicians who wander from restaurant to restaurant and serenade for tips. There is in Naples a mandolin academy that attempts to combat the stereotype by promoting other music, classic and modern, for the instrument. Now let's take a look at the Neapolitan Sceneggiata. Sceneggiata Napoletana. The Sceneggiata Napoletana is a form of musical drama typical of Naples. Beginning as a form of musical theatre after World War I, it was also adapted for cinema. Sceneggiata films became especially popular in the 1970s and contributed to the genre becoming more widely known outside of Naples. The Sceneggiata can be roughly described as a musical soap opera, where action and dialogue are integrated with Neapolitan songs. Plots revolve around melodramatic themes drawing from the Neapolitan culture and tradition, including passion, jealousy, betrayal, personal deceit, treachery, honour, vengeance and life in the world of petty crime. Little known abroad but extremely popular in Naples, it's the local stage musical form of the Sceneggiata. Around the start of the 20th century, they were performed in the United States, in areas populated by Italian immigrants. It is also sung and spoken in the Neapolitan dialect. Action stops every few minutes for someone to break out in song. As a rule, many of the plots were flimsy. The Sceneggiata started shortly after World War I and was extremely popular in 1920s, then faded, but has enjoyed somewhat of a comeback with newer generations of performers since the 1960s. The most popular performers of the genre are the Neapolitans Mario Merola and Mario Trevi. The most popular sceneggiata ever written is the Zappatore, and it means one who works the land and breaks up the soil, or farming. It was written to feature a song of that name in 1929 by Bobbio and Albano. It then became a stage production, and even made it into a film on various occasions. The first one actually from a film company in Little Italy in New York City. Now let's take a look at our next Neapolitan music style. The Cantautore. The Cantautore, or literally singer-songwriter, is a musical style that has been extremely popular throughout Italy for decades, and its popularity continues to grow. As the name implies, this genre involves songwriters who sing their own music, inevitably songs about social protest, or at least some social relevance. Modern Neapolitan performers like Pino Daniele, probably the best known Neapolitan cantautore, both in Naples and elsewhere, Edoardo Bennato, Nino D'Angelo, Daniele Seppè, Rita Marco Tulli, Nando Citarella and Ciro Ricci. Seppè is quite influential and is known for using protest songs from all over the world. Well-known songs in the genre include
Napoli
and
e terra mia,
both by Pino Daniele. Let's take a look at our final music style. The Neomelodic music. Neomelodic music, or Musica Napoletana, is a musical style originating from the Italian city of Naples. Some performers in the Neomelodic scene have been criticised for glorifying crime in their songs. Neomelodic music draws on Naples' long history of street entertainment, including Commedia dell'arte, la Sceneggiata Napoletana. The first wave of what is considered as Neomelodic was a renaissance of the Sceneggiata form, including its typical themes of betrayal, class society and crime in the early 1970s. The main pioneers of the Neomelodica were the singers Mario Merola and Nino D'Angelo, with their numerous collaborations and duets. Apart from the duet being a common form, there are chord progressions that are commonly used in Neomelodica. The first wave of Neomelodica, between 1970 and 1985, often mixed traditional Neapolitan forms of music, like the neoclassical Neapolitan music, including world-famous songs such as
O sole mie, tu sei una cosa grande,
and
O soldate innamorate.
It is, to a great extent, the absence of conceptualism. That is the trademark of the Neomelodic music style. The more the singers manage to make their listeners suffer with them as they get to hear their private phone conversations or get to read their next text messages, the more they have succeeded in creating the cultural loop of Napolitanità between people that are already Neapolitans. Now we know the musical genres and styles of Neapolitan music, let's take a look and learn some of the best venues in and around Naples and Campania. The most famous place, of course, to hear music in Naples is the San Carlo Opera House, lesser known as the smaller theatre in the adjacent Royal Palace, a stage often used by the Neapolitan Ballet Company. Besides being the home of the opera, San Carlo is most frequent venue several times a year for large visiting orchestras. The nearby Teatro Mercandante, a charming old theatre from the late 1790s, and along with the San Carlo, one of the official royal theatres of the day. With the resurrection of the mammoth overseas fairgrounds, the Mostra d'Oltremare, originally built in the 1930s, in the nearby community of Fuorigrotta, the Teatro Mediterraneo on those premises is now, as well as a frequent stage for all types of musical performances. The fairground site has the advantage of containing, as well, the newly reopened outdoor amphitheatre, the Arena. It hosts summer performances of various kinds, including, most prominently, grand opera such as Verdi's Aida. There is a large chamber of music in Naples, hosted by the Alessandro Scarlatti Association, usually staged in the Teatro delle Palme, off Via dei Mille, in the Caia section of Naples. As well, smaller groups and musical productions avail themselves of a half dozen or so theatres around town that also double as cinemas. Additionally, the Naples Music Conservatory has recently refurbished and opened an auditorium on the premises and occasionally hosts concerts of various kinds of music, often featuring conservatory students and faculty. The largest public venue for music, parades, political rallies, installation art, New Year celebrations, etc. is Piazza Plebiscito, the spacious open square on the west side of the Royal Palace. Also, after decades of neglect, the Trianon Theatre has now reopened as a theatre of the Neapolitan song. It has an impressive programme of traditional Neapolitan plays and musicals, an art gallery, very good acoustics, and will soon have a permanent multimedia exhibit dedicated to Enrico Caruso. And that's it. We hope that you have learned something from our YouTube video, even though there is so much more to cover and we only touched on the basics, but please do some research online if you are passionate about the Neapolitan music scene. Thanks for watching. As always, if you liked this video, please don't forget to give us a like. Then with your thoughts and questions, comment on our video and subscribe to our channel for future Neapolitan videos on culture and la lingua napoletana. See you all in the next video. Bye!